Good afternoon and welcome to Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Podcast. I'm Dan Edwards, the manager of the Eastside Real Estate team. And this is our weekly podcast on living, growing, working, having fun on the East Side. Thanks for joining us today. We would love, if you're watching this live, to subscribe, thumbs up. You can comment. We'd love to answer any questions that you might have about the amazing real estate market that we find ourselves in. We've got some fabulous guests today. Also, if you want to ever listen to past podcasts, you can do so by subscribing to the podcast. Just search Seattle's Eastside Real Estate Podcast, and that will put us in place for, my phone is going crazy, excuse me, pardon me. We'll put us in position to subscribe, and then you'll get these sent to your phone, and you can listen to them on your way into work, or if you're on the ferry out to the islands, or whatever it is you're doing. So awesome. We've got a great show today. We're going to be welcoming Tucker Maxwell of Guild Mortgage Company, Samantha Kennedy of Mainsail Financial Group, and Jeanette Baton of Dynamic Designs Jewelry. It's going to be an action-packed show, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, before we get started with our guests, we're going to have our Real Talk segment. And the big question today is what are the experts saying about what the future holds for the second half of 2022? Now, we find ourselves at a turning point in the market right now. There's a lot of consumer sentiment has been lowered. And of course, inflation numbers came out recently that showed a incredible 9% inflation. So what's going to happen? We've seen that the Feds have increased the short-term interest rate by 2 percentage points. And if you look at that, that really it's designed to put the brakes on the industry right now. So what can buyers, what can sellers expect? What are the experts saying? So I'm looking down here because I've got the experts' quotes. So Greg McBride, he's the chief financial analyst at Bankrate, says it like this: until inflation peaks, mortgage rates won't either. Without improvement on the inflation front, we don't know where the interest rate ceiling will be. I guess I have a personal, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a personal opinion and my professional opinion. It felt like inflation started to recede the last couple of weeks, but the report just came out now that showed, record high. So I think over maybe the last month, we've seen that peak, and perhaps it's on the way down. That's a question mark. I don't really know for sure. But what I do know is that inflation being high, the Feds are going to do everything they can to push to slow the movement of money, essentially the buying of goods and services. And one way to do that is to impact the real estate market. Of course, we don't know what will happen at the next Fed meeting, and I don't want to assume, but let's just take from a standpoint what is important to buyers and what's important to sellers. The first thing that's important to buyers is affordability. So buyers are finding themselves in a position to not to see their prices, which were rising for quite some time, start to stabilize. I want to be careful with the words I'm using here and not say starting to fall, because that's a what's the word I'm looking for? I think that's a misconception. We start to see more available inventory, and I'll come back to that. But what we are seeing is that pressure for buyers to exit the market because they can't afford it. And Tucker Maxwell and I, in a few moments, will kind of talk about strategies for buyers to understand why this is actually still a good time to consider. As a matter of fact, it's better than it has been in the past 5 years to consider a move. The second thing is supply of inventory. Now, the supply of inventory has definitely increased, and thank goodness. Buyers actually have an opportunity to consider a few homes before making their bid. They don't have to run in there, offer full asking price, or 100,000, 200,000 and above. So that's nice that we're seeing more inventory come. And as the inventory stretches or the days on market stretch out, you're going to see more available options. So if you are a buyer, you're going to find yourself in a situation where it makes more sense to keep shopping because there are more available opportunities. So experts are saying that growth is going to continue. Realtor.com, they updated their 2022 forecast. In the latest release, they increased their projections for inventory gains dramatically, going from a 0.3% to a 15% jump. Selma Happ, Deputy Chief Economist of CoreLogic. CoreLogic is a company that does home valuations and stuff, and we call it automated valuation. So they kind of help us with value. And they said the current home price growth rate is unsustainable, meaning the one in the rearview mirror. And with higher mortgage rates coupled with higher inventory, it's going to lead to slower home growth, but unlikely declines. So I think that's the key aspect. Is it's not depreciation or a reduction in value, it's slower home growth. So I think that's especially important for buyers to consider this, because what it means is if you have a plan to buy a house strictly for its appreciation value, that's a bad move. And I really don't believe anybody should be making that decision just on appreciated value. They should be making that decision based on, rather than paying someone else's mortgage, they're paying their own. So in summary, bottom line, if you're a home buyer or a home seller, you need to know what's happening. You need to be informed. I'm happy to sit down with anybody, talk about their specific situation, and see how the market affects their goals. Because essentially what this is not an investment strategy session. Excuse me, easier said than done. This is not an investment strategy session. This is an understanding of how to get from point A to point B, house A to house B, rental A to home ownership, first-time home seller to a retirement home. And I think it's important to understand the market factors in place and how they relate to your situation. At the Eastside real estate team, we're here to help guide you in that direction with the proper information. So let's talk. If there's something that you need more information on, we're happy to help. All right, so we're gonna do a short commercial break, then we're gonna come back with Tucker Maxwell. So we've got this quick little